All right, folks, welcome back to the Ministry of Guitar, one of Asia's finest guitar collections. Today, we are going to unbox something very, very special. Yes, very special. This is, I think, the most expensive guitar in the collection, or at least the one that I've paid the most money for, that's for sure. Yes, it's a lot of money. In any case, as you can tell, it is also a very, very large guitar. You don't need to guess what this is. You've already seen the thumbnail, but it is still a sight to behold, even if you know what it is. And that's the sight we're about to behold right now. I'm just a little bit scared that my usual resting space is not big enough for the case. Is there going to be a disaster? You know what? Enjoy it for a second. I'm going to make sure the guitar is stable, then come back to you. With great trepidation, I have confirmed indeed that this guitar is stable. And it's a good time to tell you what it is, because I think all of you already know. I have 4 words for you. Knocking on Heaven's Door. That's 4 words. Slash. 1966, Guns N' Roses. Yeah, this is the big deal. I am not usually one for signature guitars. If you look around my room, you don't see any signature guitars. DGT doesn't count; it's a model on its own. But I had to make an exception with this one. This, of course, again, just to not be cryptic, is the 1966, not really 1966, but the Gibson Custom Shop 1966 / EDS1275. Basically replicating the guitar that Slash used to use live, and he used to famously play November Rain. Sorry, not November Rain. That's a different guitar. Famously play Knocking on Heaven's Door on. This is a very special guitar in general. So the reason I had to make an exception was there are 3 chords in Knocking on Heaven's Door, right? It's just, or 4 chords. It's just G, D, C or G, D, A minor. And that is a song that for most guitarists, and especially for most Indian guitarists or people from India, when you come to university, that's kind of one of the first songs. If you get into guitar, that's one of the first songs you learn. And Slash tends to have a little bit of an outsized influence on you. So as much as I don't want to be a fanboy of one particular artist, I do have to admit the influence of Slash. I mean, it influenced the first guitar I bought, influenced some of the colors that I really like. Look at that Tobacco Burst 513. What does that remind you of? So yes, so Slash does have a role to play. So this is a guitar I had to get. It was incredibly expensive. I don't usually buy guitars that are that expensive. I mean, I buy expensive guitars, but this was of a different range altogether. I got this new. This was a new old stock. There is a dealer in Singapore who used to be the Gibson dealer, and they stopped being the Gibson dealer. And 4 years later, they discovered some old stock. And they reached out to me, and obviously I just had to get this. All right, let's take a closer look at this. This is, of course, a 6-string and a 12-string. This is in black. This has a lot of the checking, replicating Slash's exact guitar. The checking on Gibson Custom Shop. I am not a fan of artificial aging, but what I do have to acknowledge is the intricate work done to replicate this. I have actual guitars that have nitro checking, so I appreciate this. To me, it still looks a little bit man-made, but it is definitely a job well done. And the back is even crazier. What will be crazy if the guitar drops? So pardon me if you see a finger still holding onto the guitar. So, of course, you have Slash's signature. I should have mentioned that to begin with. You have a little bit of checking on the headstock, going back down all the way. There's the famous headstock break that they have replicated. Again, checking on the 6-string neck as well. Checking on the body. Buckle rash. The funny thing is, when my wife first saw this guitar, she's like, why are they giving you a guitar that's been damaged? And I was like, no, that's the whole point. Yeah, okay, specs on this guitar. 6-string side, usual 24.75 in scale length. One thing that people don't realize about these double neck guitars is they don't have 22 frets. Check it out. 15, 17, 18, 19, 20. They have 20 frets. So if you're actually trying to play one of those famous double neck songs like Stairway to Heaven or whatever, it's a pain to play the solo because you don't have the access that you would need. I'm convinced that's one of the reasons why Jimmy Page doesn't play the exact same studio solo or parts of it, critical parts of it live. So that's one thing to note. This, of course, has a rosewood fretboard, mother of pearl inlays. Fret size is standard. Tune-o-matic bridge. We'll get into the controls layout later when we go through the actual guitar in the sound. But of course, you have volume and tone for both sides. And then you have a way to toggle between both the guitars and a way to toggle between the pickups. It's a little complicated. I would have explained it to you right now, but you know what? I've forgotten myself. So I'll tell it to you when I play the guitar, and I'll show it to you then. On the 12-string side, another thing to note, right? These 12-string guitars, they look so incredible, but they are a damn pain. I have a 12-string Epiphone, which is the cheap version of this. I detest restringing that guitar. I've owned that guitar since 2015. 8 years, I've restrung it twice. Not something you want to do. In fact, it gets to it almost stops you from playing these guitars, right? So unless you have somebody else who's going to do it for you, which I don't. So anyway, 12 strings. For those of you who don't understand how 12 strings work, each string is duplicated, but it's a little bit different because for the bottom strings, which is the low E, low A, and the D, you have octave strings. You can see, so it's 1 octave higher. Let's see if I can show that to you. 1 octave higher, there we go. Thank you, camera. And then for the G string onwards, it's just a duplicate because you can't really go 1 octave higher. It's going to be super crazy high. That's how a 12 string works. You have nylon saddles, I should have mentioned that, both on the 12 string side as well as on the 6 string side. Gibson custom humbuckers on both sides. There is no coil splitting. I actually think you should have a coil split option on a 12 string because then you get those jangly sounds, those very crisp, crystal clean sounds. But it's not my signature guitar. This is exactly what Slash uses. It works for him, so that's great. Let's check out what's inside, shall we? You're opening it up after putting the guitar out of harm's way. There is this, you know what this is, don't you? This is a strap. This is the Slash strap. This is the replica of the strap that he uses. I'm obviously not going to use this. I don't think I can pull it off, nor do I want to. There is the pre-pack checklist. You get this on every Gibson. This, of course, says it's the Slash 1275, aged and signed. Serial number 106. Oh, I should have mentioned, right? They were restricted to 120 or 110 units. So each of them is individually numbered. This one is 106. And then this is the certificate of authenticity with a photo of Mr. Slash playing the guitar, obviously, and the individual number 106. Finally, I'm guessing this is the key. Yep, this is the key for the case. Simple, yet devastatingly effective. All right, let's go over to the workstation where I'm going to take you through some sounds. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the story of how I got this guitar. Honestly, it's such a special story. One video, I mean, I don't want to lose it in the middle of this video. I'll make a separate video on that. And sounds, impressions, review, all of that coming up. All right, folks, I'm at the station. I just spent a little bit of time tuning this up. So this is a good opportunity to tell you two things. One is, if you are a rock star who has somebody to tune all 18 strings for you, wonderful, well and good. If you're like me and the other people with you can't really help you tune your guitars, it's going to take a lot of time. The second thing to note is that I made a mistake. The G string is not two regular strings. There's one G string and one octave higher. So the G string also has an octave higher for the 12 string neck. All right. So, as I said, I will tell you the story of how I got this guitar in a separate video. It is a long story. It is a fun story. It is a story involving more than just myself, but a lot of folks from my family. So, keep an eye out for that. I'm going to get straight into the guitar and I'm going to explain to you the control layout of this little monster. So, what you have here is neck volume, neck tone, bridge volume, bridge tone. That is true regardless of whether you're using the top guitar or the bottom guitar. And how you toggle between the top and bottom guitar, and also, sorry, this three-way switch is similar: neck, middle, bridge. True regardless of whether it's this guitar or this guitar. All that happens is that you use this switch to toggle between this guitar only, 12 string only, both, or 6 string only. That's how the controls of this work. It's different from the Epiphone that I have. What the difference is, I cannot recall. It's intuitive enough, and I believe this is the exact setting that Slash had them rewire to, and I think it makes sense because the way to look at it is you have two guitars, they have the same controls, and you just choose between the guitars using the switch. Fairly intuitive. The other thing that I do want to call out is the sound of the guitar. I'm going to start off with the 6 string and just with a few clean tones here and there. So I'm in the 6 string position, neck. It's very much in Les Paul territory. The thing with these big SG double necks is they don't sound like SGs, they sound like Les Pauls. Because they have so much body, they have a thick neck. And speaking of the neck, that's a good segue. This is not a thin neck, this is a thick neck, this is a Les Paul neck. The 6 string neck feels pretty much like a 59 Les Paul. The 12 string neck, if anything, feels even bigger. So I would say that this is more in the 58 Les Paul territory. It's a massive neck, which kind of makes sense for the reinforcement that you would need. So because of these large necks and large bodies, these things tend to have very much a Les Paul-like sound. So this was clean. When you put it in distortion, that is instant Les Paul neck tone. Middle position. Or if you put it in the So it's a little bit more difficult to play than a regular guitar because you have this in front of you, but it's not outrageously difficult. And you get exactly Les Paul sound. So this is like having a Les Paul and bridge as well. Little spiky, little thinner, but never too spiky. It's nice. It's just a standard, good sounding Les Paul sound. The only issue, as I was mentioning earlier, is accessibility of the neck. So if you imagine you're trying to play something which requires, like even the intro to Fade to Black, right? All of that is good. All of that is fine, but when you go into the... Yeah, you can't do that. That last 19th fret is almost impossible to get to, and 20th, forget about it. So that's one thing to note. So even if you think of the Stairway to Heaven solo, of course, everything here, that's easy. But when you have that last part, especially when it's a 17 and a 20, I don't think you can play that on this guitar. So that's why you play a modified version of the Stairway to Heaven solo. Let's get to the coup de grace of the guitar, which is the 12 string. And we shall pray and hope it's still in tune. Neck position. Shall we do a little bit of a loop? Let's see how that comes out. shifting to the six string neck. Volume some tube screamer. Let's try some bridge pickup. Good enough. It's a great sounding guitar, frankly. It's a solid Gibson. What else can I say? There is an entire collectible emotional value to this guitar because of the guitar replicating what it is. But the thing not to lose sight of is that it's just okay. Bridge pickup, wrong pickup. It's just an incredible guitar. Is it the best guitar to play? Now, that's got nothing to do with this guitar. It's got to do with the fact that this is this particular EDS1275 body shape. And let me tell you a story. I had one guitar for 10 years, the Epiphone Les Paul. The second guitar I bought was a Epiphone G1275 10 years later. The reason I bought it is I had seen it one day hanging in the local shop Sweely in Singapore. It had just looked like the coolest thing ever. And what I couldn't understand is it's such a cool looking guitar. And of course, I'm in my 20s. Why don't more people play it all the time? Why do you play with a puny single guitar when you can play a double guitar and look so much cooler? So I got the G1275. There's a review of it somewhere on my channel, very early one when I got it. And when I played it, then I realized a few things. One was the upper fret accessibility, which I told you about. That's a real pain if you're playing anything modern at all. Second thing is it's a heavy beast. So this carrying it, forget about carrying it on stage, carrying it to the place where you need to go and jam or go practice or stage is a pain. It's really heavy. And then tuning it is a laborious affair. You know, if you're anybody who plays in a band, you know how irritated the drummer gets or how impatient the bassist gets while the guitarist is tuning. Imagine that with 18 strings. That happened to me the first two times I took the Epiphone to my band practice. So yeah, so while in theory, it looks like, wow, what an amazing thing. Practically, it has a very specific application. I mean, if you're playing Stairway to Heaven live, I mean, I would bring it out even if it's a little bit of a pain. But for most real application, and Knocking on Heaven's Door, but for most real applications, it's a bit much. That said, this guitar is incredible. I'm very, very happy to have it. It'll be strange to say that it's not... Okay, let me see how I can put it in a good way. Gibson custom shop, artist signed runs go for crazy amounts of money, ridiculously crazy amounts of money. When you compare to that level, this is not in that level. And I'm not saying they're worth that much money. This is just the way the market is. This is not that expensive. And I think a lot of people, particularly in the West, they do not realize the significant emotional involvement that this particular guitar or Guns N' Roses or Slash has with fans which are outside of the US or outside of the Western world. There is a crazy following. I can tell you, speaking from my experience, my contemporaries, maybe 5 to 10 years, or maybe 15 years older, all the way till 5 to 10 years, 15 years younger than me. Guns N' Roses is iconic. Knocking on Heaven's Door for anybody who, goes to university. And in the eastern part of the world, a lot of people, when they go to university, they've studied a lot. So university is kind of where they break out a little bit. And that's where guitar comes in. That's where Knocking on Heaven's Door comes in. That's where Slash and Guns N' Roses comes in. For all of these people, Knocking on Heaven's Door and Slash and Guns N' Roses occupy a tremendous space in their heart. And you don't see too much of that because I think a lot of the people today, the folks driving up Gibson custom shop prices, are more still in Led Zeppelin. Slash, of course, has its own thing, but you have the whole Greenie, which is again older Fleetwood Mac, Gary Moore. This thing is, if anything, is the Gibson custom shop that even 10, 20 years down the line, you will have a ravenous horde of fans who want one of these. Because it is just something. Even for me, I made such an exception. I don't buy signature guitars. I don't like them. I don't like the fetishization of taking a guitar and because it's the color of some artist, then I don't believe in all that shit. But even for me, Knocking on Heaven's Door, it was one of the first songs I ever learned how to play. It was one of the first songs I saw played live by a band when I started. So even for me, I had to make an exception for this. And that is why this is an incredible guitar that I do intend on keeping for now. Never say never. I am usually of the kind who prefers my guitars to be super functional. I don't really need an 18-string guitar. So this sits in its case mostly, but that's not too much of a bad thing given how valuable the guitar is. So even for me, right now, this guitar is going to stay with me. And I really, really like it. If you get a chance to get one, if you're considering one, I recommend it as well. All right, I hope this was fun. Till the next unboxing.